Okay.
Right, good, thank you.
Bora da was how I'll start as an Irishman speaking Welsh in England. Just want to say good morning. This is a very different sort of story to what we've just heard about with Cranbrook. This is Caerphilly town centre, a regeneration plan that has been in place for a few years, and as the head of Masterplanning and Urban Design at Treglown, we are leading a multidisciplinary team supporting the council in the delivery of its plans. We didn't create the plan, but we're helping them to make it happen. So, a bit of background, for those of you who don't know Caerphilly, it's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes on the train due north of Cardiff. It's got some stunning scenery around it, great hills, access to the countryside, mountain bike trails, things like that. A town of about 40,000 people, but the centre of the town is a Norman castle. It's the second biggest castle in the country, after Windsor Castle is the largest in the country. Fantastic asset. It's run by Cadw and managed by them. Attracts about 125,000 visitors a year, but that's about half of what the castles up in North Wales would typically get in a year. So it's got some great assets. It also has some challenges within the town. It has some very deprived local communities in terms of health and wealth. But the town itself, physically, it's in a great setting. The castle, whilst an amazing gem in the middle of the town, does present a number of challenges. By its very nature, it's designed to keep people out or in, depending on which side you were on. And then therefore that causes all sorts of problems with connectivity, barriers, topography, and things like that. So we've had all sorts of things to deal with, but just the actual kind of the core ingredients of what's in the town is really quite stunning. But as with many local town centres, there are challenges. I've probably picked a particularly grim photo, so this probably isn't fair on Caerphilly. And I should say a chicken shop has just moved into the unit on the right-hand side, so things are looking up. But as you can see, it's a place that also needs a bit of love, investment, ownership by the community as well as the traders and things like that. And this is the kind of the update done. This is kind of the journey that the council has been on to try and deal with some of these issues. One of the big problems we've got is just traffic, and again, this is another issue that most towns face. We've got a railway line that runs right along the town centre, so that funnels a huge amount of traffic through very small pinch points. And there's a one-way system, and just everything is cramming down kind of old streets. And so we've just got to deal with that. People talk about the street furniture, there's loads of railings, bins, everything all around the place. So whilst it has a lot going for it, it also has a lot of challenges that we're trying to deal with. And I think this probably sums up the transformation of parts of the town over the last 125 years. Just turn of the century there on the left-hand side, and you can just see how over time vehicles have just started to dominate, and it becomes all about vehicles, less about people. And so what we're trying to do is to kind of learn some of those lessons and how we can transform the town. So a bit of background to the actual placemaking plan. Like I said, we weren't involved in the creation of it, but one of the big things that this is probably quite different for most of you in the room is that we're obviously dealing with Wales, and the Welsh government has a real emphasis on a programme to try and regenerate town centres, and they've got the town centre first principle, and they're trying to encourage local authorities to regenerate their towns by concentrating on relocating and locating as many of the resources as possible into the town centres. Now for Caerphilly, there are two core areas of this Transforming Towns programme that are particularly relevant to today. The first one is the kind of the bluey-greeny one, the placemaking plans. So the Welsh Government has a fund, of about £850,000 over a few years to support councils in the creation of placemaking plans. So they've done that, they're very happy with what they've done. But then there's also the capital funding. So they have a kind of a system of loans and grants which needs to be match funded by the local authority as well. But Caerphilly has really grasped this, and it's quite impressive how bold they've been in trying to deliver the plan with that support from Welsh Government. So this was the plan that was created. It was created by a practice in Cardiff called the Urbanists, and it was published in 2020 and based around a set of 8 core ambitions, so kind of a great place to live, a great place to work, to visit, and so forth. And there were about 65 or 70 different projects identified in this plan. Now, obviously, you can't just launch in and try and deliver all 70 projects from the get-go. So we've been working with the council to try and sort of prioritise some of these and to start delivering them. So then it comes to actually delivering this plan. Hopefully, this works. I'm going to, here we go. Oh, it comes with music, right? Let me just hopefully turn that down slightly. So this is just a fly through of what the town and the priorities that we're dealing with at the moment. This is the interchange, a bus and train interchange upgrade with Grimshaw Architects, which cost about £40 million. Then we have Cardiff Road, which is effectively the main high street. I showed you that photo of that sorry-looking square. On that, this block here, Penchbane Street, this is with Welsh Government, where the council is acting as land assembly. So they've pieced together all the land into a larger group for 73 mixed tenure homes. We're looking at some public realm upgrades. And then as we come over to these red buildings, this is the first project that's been delivered. It's a container market with great views looking towards the castle, but providing a new food and beverage offer within the town for all ages, for all very much serving existing community as well as visitors to the town. This car park, Crescent Road car park on the left-hand side, is the main visitor car park, so we're trying to improve the connections between that arrival experience. These blue buildings, then again another huge land assembly project for the council to try and generate a hotel on the site with the delivery partner. We've got lots of car parking. Those photographs of over time that I showed you is of this area, so we're trying to reduce the impact of vehicles passing through. This building here is a council asset, has been making a £90,000 loss running a cafe every single year, so they have now got a commercial partner on board to help them actually do that, and it's going to start generating money, not costing. CADU then operates the castle, so on the right-hand side we have a new visitor centre which will sit outside the paywall, and inside then they've been working on conservation works and interpretive side of things, investment of about £20 million. Lots of road infrastructure that needs to be visited, and in the middle of this island is the listed Workman's Hall, so it's run by a local community trust, and that's going to be the heart of a new cultural centre within the town. A new CIC has been set up by local community groups to try and make that a reality. And as we go towards the west of the town, we've got some active travel funding from Welsh Government to upgrade these streets around here to get better connections, ultimately leading out to this building, which is a new leisure and wellbeing hub. So there's a new swimming pool and other facilities. They secured £20 million of LUF funding for that. Some more public realm and active travel upgrades leading out to that facility. And then this blue area is Nest Tar, a heavily contaminated site. All forms of contamination are nuclear as a former tar works site, so really, really contaminated. Right. I tried to slow down talking, but there's only so slow I can go with that video. That kind of gives you an overview, and these are the priority projects. These obviously aren't the 65, 70 different projects from the original plan. Some of them are more immediate, and that we can get done, like Foss Market, which was acting as a catalyst that everybody could get benefit from. But also some of them, like land assembly projects, require a huge amount of time and a lot of progress to make things happen. One of the big first steps of the council was to appoint Hamish, who would have been standing here next to me. His sole remit is, as placemaking programme manager, is to effectively deliver the placemaking plan. So he's got no other remit within the council. And so he was appointed in 2021, and a few months later then he appointed Strides as the lead for a multidisciplinary team to provide that extra support. So, in here we have engagement, communications, culture, technical side from ARP, as well as commercial advice and things like that. And as we need more support with particular disciplines, our specialisms, we just bring them on board as required. So another area that we've really focused on is starting to build up the infrastructure needed for ongoing community engagement, because it's something that has been commented upon a lot within Caerphilly, is just that lack of trust between the community and the council. So we've been building up this programme of engagement, so things like digital surveys. We've now on to our second or third survey, so we're going to be building that up every year as a way of just tracking change. Lots of workshops. In the first few months there were several hundred one-to-one conversations with local groups, school kids, things like that. But one of the big things has been the creation of a new residents committee. So we have a team of about 20, 25 local community volunteers, and we can use those as sounding boards before we go out to broader community engagement, drop-in sessions and things like that. So we're using that committee. It's early days, but the purpose of that is for us to test the really silly, stupid ideas, see how they land. If they don't land well, or we refine them, drop them, listen to what they say. So that's really the purpose of that. Another aspect that we've looked at is creating a brand for the town. We felt this was really quite important because so much work is being planned for the town over a sort of a 15-year period, rather than having people feel fed up that yet another project's coming forward and something's happening over there, something's happening over here. Realising that was all part of the same sequence of works and same ultimate aim for the town centre. So working with Cowshed, a company in Cardiff, kind of identified this brand, and again it's come very much off the back of the engagement process. It's not something that we did off our own back and then rolled out. It was informed through that early engagement process. So if you can see there on the right hand side, you've got the leaning tower. So the southeast tower of Caerphilly Castle leans at 10 degrees. It has been leaning at 10 degrees for centuries. Everybody knows about the 10 degrees of the southeast tower. So that has formed part of the branding because people, they know what it is, they have that love for the castle, and it's very much a core part of the identity of the town. So it's this idea of Caerphilly town having that rich history but leaning into a brighter, better future. And that's starting to filter through on all manner of different platforms, social media, and the new website for that, and that branding is going to be coming forward in the next couple of weeks. Another area that we looked at was actually updating the plan, which is not surprising. The plan was created, it was published at the very beginning of 2020. A lot happened in 2020, and we had to kind of go back and think about what was actually important and which areas could we concentrate on, what could be delivered early on. So one of the things that came through the engagement process were these 3 pillars of live, work and visit. The community very much informed this about wanting everything that kind of comes forward to either tackle this idea of making it a better place to live for the existing community or to work, but also making it a place for people to visit and come and want to come back to. And visitors, we're not just talking about tourists, we're talking about friends and family also coming to visit the town. And then we've identified these series of placemaking themes then that start to filter through more of the physical works that we're looking at across the town centre. Complementing all of that then is a series of strategies that we're looking at. This is just some of them, but it's quite broad. Things like the transport and movement strategy. We undertook a traffic survey in the town centre at the end of last year, and we have identified that about 2/3 of all the traffic going through the town centre is through traffic. So that has, obviously now we know that, and it means that we can now start to think about how we manage that through the engagement process, and we've started feeding this information back to the community. It is starting to influence now how we think about roads as opposed to streets, and how we can kind of start to shift that balance from vehicles to people. But also things like the culture strategy. We've identified 3 broad pillars of that based around events. They've got festivals like the Big Cheese from Caerphilly, but also a cultural centre and engaging an animated public realm with the 3 broad areas where that's it. So it kind of gives you an idea of where that's going. We've got to think about how this is actually going to be funded, and that was obviously touched upon with Cranbrook. And the council has acknowledged that it has to act as a catalyst in this kind of earlier stage. But over time, that dial needs to move from public to private. This isn't a council and Welsh Government funded project for the next 15 years. So what we're trying to do, and that's why things like that market, the FOSS market that opened up, that's very much that sort of catalyst project that appeals to a lot of people, and it has already started to raise the profile of the town. But like I also mentioned, things like council assets, land assembly process, things like that, where the council isn't necessarily going to be the one delivering it, but it can put the framework in place to enable those sorts of activities to happen. Just 2 quick projects then. We have, this is what FOSS looks like. That blue box on the left really covers up a lot of the image, so apologies. But this is, we've got about 25 or so units in here, a mixture of local businesses. We've got a fishing tackle local trader, we've got somebody who's selling craft beers, but also on the right hand side, which has great views down towards the castle and the parkland, that's where we've got now lots of food and beverage offers. So now people have a place to go and sit outside as they're enjoying the sunshine, as it always.
Sorry, if you could just begin to.
That's fine. Yeah, this is it. This was just another project then, which is the cultural centre, which I mentioned earlier on. So this is now ground up. So it's the local community, a few groups have come together, they formed a CIC, and this is very much about the council trying to support them, but they are very much taking the lead rather than the council. So, is this actually making any difference? You would like to think so. This was just a story from Wales Online about 4 weeks ago, and as you can imagine, with phrases like young people obsessed with it and up and coming and bustling vibe and good feel atmosphere, it's generating a nice warm fuzzy feeling in officers and members. So it's a long journey. We're talking about, we're three years or so into a 15-year program. This is just the start and it needs to keep going, but certainly the first indications are that it's being well received.
Lovely, brilliant.